Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there. This is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in-person and virtual seminars. So please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Rodolfo De Angeli, who is a beacon of transformation and empowerment. At the core of his ethos is a deep commitment to guiding individuals, particularly those in midlife, through their crucial moments of self-discovery and rebirth. Rodolfo's works transcends his personal achievements. It is centered on empowering others to transform their challenges into powerful strengths and to obtain a life of true fulfillment. His methods are not just about coping with life's hurdles, they are about thriving beyond them. Oh, I'm excited to have Rodolfo come and share with us today. Rodolfo, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're being interviewed from.
Thank you, James. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me here. This is an absolute honor and a privilege to be here. I don't take this lightly and not for granted at all. So I really want to say thank you to you and your audience for allowing me to just come on and share a little bit about me and hopefully, serve you all. I'm coming in from Melbourne, Australia today. It's 8:10 in the AM. So, this again, the beauty about technology, right? We are on two different part of the world and yet united for the same cause. And that is really also the reason why, I love to come on to the show once we connected and so on. Two people never saw each other before, yet connected to the same end. And I believe at the time we live right now, the more we are, the better. And so, yeah. So my story, well, how much do I have?
Well,
I'll keep this brief.
yeah, keep it brief because we got so much to talk about. So just keep it brief.
Absolutely. Well, I'm 55 years old. And when I was 6 months old, my mother gave me away. So my parents gave me away. They gave me to foster parents until I was 11, for various reasons that I thought were connected to, they came from poverty. I'm Italian. I grew up in Switzerland. My parents migrated to Switzerland from Italy in late 50s and wanted to rebuild their life and so on. I was born in 69 and kind of I messed up the plans a little bit. And so they decided to give me away. They decided to work and make some money and eventually take the family back to Italy and so on. So the reality of all of that eventually through my journey and understanding my lineage and family and everything like that, it was more connected that my mother was a narcissist and she couldn't care less about another kid around her that would mess up her plans of la bella vita, as we say in Italy. And so anyway, I was grown up with foster parents. I was then sexually abused, and eventually returned home when I was already a grown-up boy. Obviously, the connection with my parents never really happened from that point on. I moved on from home, not long after that, and started my own path, which was surrounded and guided by a lot of trauma, and obviously, not knowing exactly who I was. There was no male figure to guide me. And so I was kind of lost, right? And
Okay.
and I tried to figure things out, and I tried to mirror the people close to me. My father was a very honest man, a very hardworking man, but he was also very jealous and very possessive in a way. And I thought, for me to connect with him, what better way than becoming him? And so that was my beginning of relationships in this toxic way. And anyway, got married very young. I was 24, and only 4 months later, I found my wife with someone else. And so I understood, or thought I understood life for, everything is happening to me, and someone hasn't my best interest. And so I became kind of the opposite of what I was. I was very much a people pleaser. I was trying to fit in into this society, but eventually I thought, you know what, stuff this. This ain't working like that. So, I became very radical. I became very associated to situation who eventually got me incarcerated and put away for a little bit.
Okay.
When I came out, I was 30 already. I wandered the streets of Bern, Switzerland as a homeless person because I didn't have anything anymore and everything was gone. And trying to find a new way.
Rodolfo,
Told them,
go
you
on.
go.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. And so trying to delete my past, I stumbled on a course, on a IT course. This we talk in 2000 now, and with a friend of mine, we this IT course, and from there I started to help people, reformatting their PC and whatever. And one evening I was doing so for a friend of mine, and he had a little chat thingy going on his computer. And in a moment break that he went to the restroom, this little pop-up popped up on this computer, and there was someone chatting, right? And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And there was this lady from Melbourne, Australia, and checking in, and so we started chatting a little bit back and forth, and my friend came back, and I'm telling him what I'm doing, and so on and so forth. But eventually, this person became a very crucial person in my life, and that person today is my wife.
Mm.
At the time, obviously, I was a broken man. I didn't know exactly how the rest of my life will go on. I was only 30, and I decided to leave Europe and embark on a new journey in Australia. I believed, well, I'm gonna leave all this behind me. I'm gonna leave all this crap behind me, and all these people and everything and family and all so on. And I'm gonna go to the furthest away from where I am on the other side of the globe, and I'm gonna start again. And so I did. I jumped on a plane in August 2003 and arrived in Melbourne, Australia, to start a new life. A life that the first 6 months of my staying here was brilliant. It was like a dream. I had a new job, a new house, a new place, and it was amazing. Summer just came on, and I'm like, man, I made it. And probably about 8 to 10 months later from my arrival, something changed, something happened, something started to regress. And all of my stuff just came to me, was served. And today I share it in a way, life served me the bill. It's like I always make the analogy of going to a beautiful restaurant and have a nice meal and have a lot of fun and have a couple of drinks and all of that. But at the moment we got to leave, before we can do so, we got to pay up. We got to pay for what we received. We can't get out of here or out of anything before you actually pay for what you gotten. And so for me, life served me the bill and say, good, you are having a great time. You are having a new chance. You got to pay up for that stuff that you did. You can't just, I'm not going to dispose that for you. And for me, it was a big thing because my ego was way too high. My beliefs were too low. And so I fought this a lot. I'm like, no, not my responsibility. It was my parents, it was my cousin, it was my this, my that, everybody else but me, right? And so I entered in this big clinch within myself, and with depression and anxiety became my daily norm. I finally realized what I was carrying with me all along. Before, I didn't realize I was anxious. I didn't realize I was, angry and resentful and regretful and all of that, because I was above all of this, right? And so until 2010, my dad passed away in 2007, which was a big deal. It became a big deal, even though I didn't have a huge relationship with him. But it was a big deal. It hit me hard. And then in 2010, I am in my garage and I set up a rope and I'm done. I was literally at the end, and
Rodolfo,
I'm waiting for my moment. I'm waiting for the moment to get out of here. And the moment that I was in my garage, there's a window in my garage, a window that you could only see from the inside out, but not outside in, because it was kind of like mirrored. And the back of this garage was looking into my lounge room. And in the lounge room, the moment I turned around to farewell my wife that was watching TV in there, she burst out laughing. Right? She was watching some TV. She burst out laughing like hysterically. And as I'm approaching my ropes, a thought came into my mind, and that thought said, "There has to be more to life than misery."
Rodolfo,
Yeah.
Boy, I see your story. I hear your story. And actually, you could take up my whole 30 minutes sharing it because it is interesting. It is intriguing. You have done so much and you've gone through so much. So let's just stop and let me kind of ask you a few questions about a lot of it, because I've read your profile and I know what you've gone through. I feel it, and I know you feel it because I can tell it in your talk. I can tell it by your conversation as you are sharing it. And but I didn't want it to be too long because I didn't want listeners to just get uh, how we can get worn out with everything. So let's get a little conversation going with it. I know you it looks like you were getting ready to attempt suicide at one point. Okay, so tell me what happened the minute before you attempted to do this, and how that changed everything in your life.
Oh, that's a great question. That's exactly what I was. That was the point. That voice of there has to be more to life than misery. That was that thing that literally stopped me on my tracks. I'm like, wow, there has to be more to life than misery. Like, what is that? I don't know what that is, and I gotta find out. And I remember that was my decision. Okay, I'm gonna abort all this. I'm gonna go and find out what that is. But also, it was a moment for me, and it probably was the first moment ever that I realized, well, I need some help here. I
Okay.
literally need some help. I can't do this by myself. And so I started to look for help, for something that could get me from where I was into a complete different state, a complete different state of mind. I was on antidepressants. I was on all of the stuff that, we hear, the therapists and the psychiatrists and all of that stuff. So for me, you know, and again, that's my perception. That's my story. For me, those things never worked. And I've been on that stuff for years. But for me, it didn't work. Right.
So
And so
so
for me,
so
yeah.
what was it that worked for you that was the thing that allowed you to overcome where you were? What was it?
That's a funny question, actually. So as I'm looking for some help, I see a quote. Okay. And the quote says, if you do what you have always done, you will get what you have always gotten. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that quote really interesting. I'm like, God, this is some powerful stuff here. And I realized I was doing always the same thing, right? And I was getting always the same thing. So I researched into it, and I'm like, okay, who is this quote by? And it was by Anthony Robbins. I had no idea who Anthony Robbins was, and so I went onto his website, and out of, I don't know, spirit, God, the universe, whatever we want to call
Mm-hmm.
it, he literally, a week after that, it was a Thursday night, and Thursday week after that, he had an event in Sydney, so it's about an hour flight, an hour and a half flight from here. And I remember asking my wife. My wife was in the front of the house, and I said, "Hey, Grace, do you know Anthony Robbins?" And she said, "Yeah, I think he's this American speaker guy, whatever, whatever." And I remember saying, "Do you think he can help me?"
Mm.
That was the first moment where I said, "Can someone help me?" Right?
That's when you somewhat came to yourself.
Yeah,
You're in a period, but you really found yourself and you realized that you needed some help. Am I correct about
absolutely.
that? Okay. Now get having gone through that, uh well, this trauma, I guess adversity, uh and all of that you were dealing with, uh tell us how this in effect now has changed your life and has gotten you to where you are now. That's because that's what listeners of my podcast are very interested in. We know you've gone through a lot. We feel it. We hear it in your voice. Now that you have gotten through that, uh, tell us. Well, maybe I want to start here. How did you get through it? You talked to this guy, and now you're where you are. Share a little bit of this now. What's your life like at this point?
Yeah. I Before that, if I may, am
Okay.
I share a crucial part before that?
Okay.
Because, like I said, I went to this event and it was brilliant. I then um, chosen to join a coach, right, and get a coach and stuff like that, right, and it was brilliant. Okay, my business took off, 7 figures, 40 staff, life transformed literally. Yet, about a year and a half after that, my life regressed back into where I was. And that was the moment I realized life has two journeys, the
Mhm.
inner journey and an outer journey.
Okay.
The unfortunate part is that we oftentimes get on an outer journey to step away from all of this pain and trauma and whatever. And now we are embarking on a journey of, I gotta achieve things, I gotta make things, I gotta buy things, I gotta whatever that might be, which is great, which is amazing, which is a big part of life. Yet if we try to fill the void with something on the outside, then we will always spin our wheels to the rest of our lives, because whatever we're going for, that void will always only be filled for a short amount of time, and then that just becomes another norm. Yet that was for me the moment that I realized, okay, there's more to this work. There's more to the money. There's more to, losing weight. There's more to all of that, the friends and the family and all of that. There is more, because there is me. And if I don't know who I am, if I can't heal those parts that are still there, even subconsciously, if you are going on this constant ride, there is a moment you got to stop and you go inwards. And that is when, and now I'm going to share, answer your question. That's when I found an ancient practices out of South America, which is shamanism for me, and embarked on a deep journey within, and now it's been over a decade that I practice. And so now life is full.
Okay.
Life is not perfect. Life is not exempt of pain. Life is not, free of any challenges, but life is full now because I have an outer journey. I love to serve. I love to, help people help themselves like I was helped. Nobody saved me. Nobody carried me from where I was to where I am, but they guided me. They mentored me. They showed me the way and trusted in me that I was able to do so.
Okay.
And so today, this is my outer journey.
All
My
right.
outer journey is taking care of family. My outer journey is, obviously having great friends and this, that, the other, and so on. Being here is part of my outer journey, sharing my story,
Okay.
connecting with people that are on that same path as I am.
Okay.
The inner journey is different. The inner journey is, I can look at myself in the mirror. I can be proud of the person I see. I can be grateful for the person I am. I can embrace my story fully, with the abandonment, with the sexual abuse, with all this stuff. It's me. It made me. And so every single one is a little brick that made, myself. And so that is a big important part. We can't
Okay.
miss that, because
Okay.
oftentimes otherwise people are looking for that. Okay, what is that thing? Because then I'm gonna go after that.
Okay.
The reality is we have to go both ways, out and in.
Rodolfo, uh, y- your story is so interesting, and what you've gone through is amazing. But I want listeners of this podcast to learn a little bit about certain things that you're doing. And you mentioned about shamanism, uh, Andean shamanism. Uh, Tell us what that is. You see, uh, as we're talking, I want them to be educated also. So,
Absolutely.
so what is that, and how how has your work as a practitioner of this help you to connect with others and facilitate your growth and healing? Talk about that a little bit.
Right. That's a beautiful. That's beautiful because we live in a time as well, very complicated within this particular theme, because we hear a lot about psychedelics today, right? Psychedelics here, psychedelics there, and so on and so forth. Shamanism is very different than psychedelic experience. Shamanism is the old doctors, right? The old hospital, the ancient ways. And the Indian shamanic practice that I have healed with, have been initiated in, and today serve, is a 3,500-year-old practice out of the high Andes in Peru. Founded by a culture called Chavin. It was a culture of consciousness back in those days that reigned until 200 BC. So quite some time. That practice includes the ingestion of an entheogen called wachuma. what you may say plant medicine, derived from a cactus, derived from the brother but not twin of the peyote. So both very similar but different approaches of the healing methodology, the timing, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Okay.
Why is this different than a psychedelic experience? First of all, Wachuma is not psychedelic, as you are not seeing colors and rainbows. But why is shamanism, archaic shamanism, different than a psychedelic experience? Because you can imagine this way: a psychedelic experience is about the experience itself. It's about me telling you how much colors I saw and what happened and what this and what that. It's me now, my egoic self, trying to have seen or have experienced more than you.
Okay.
A shamanic experience is very private, it's very sacred.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I always make the analogy of remembering the first kiss with the person who mattered to you the most. You would never share that. That will stay with you forever until the end of days, because it's private, because it's special, because it's bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the difference between shamanism and a psychedelic experience. And the
Okay.
unfortunate part is that in today's days, everything gets just, thrown out there and everybody talks about this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of people in reality get hurt by it because they don't know what they're doing. And powerful entheogens like that should be handled only by initiated practitioners who have proof. They can show you proof of who they worked with, who they healed with. Because the other part of this journey is that before you can even initiate into something like that, there's a long, long, long path of your own journey that you got to go through. Because how can you heal some or bring someone through a journey that you have never gone through? But
I got
that's
it. Okay.
that's another thing.
We got you.
How can this, what do I do to help people?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I got you. I got you.
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Let me ask you this. Uh, because my podcast is all about encouraging. It's all about inspiring and hopefully transforming a life. Okay. And you have gone through it. And that was one of the reasons, this is one of the reasons I want you on my podcast, because you have been through this. There's attempted suicide. You know, you had trauma in your life. You lived as an orphanage. You have served. You've been confined. Uh, you it's you. I mean, everything is there that you have had to deal with. So I'm curious if there's somebody listening to this podcast who has been through some of the same things that you have been through. I mean, it could be, ooh, they thought about suicide. They've been confined. Uh, they have had a lot of trauma in their lives. You name it. What would you say to that individual that will be encouraging to them, that will be inspiring to them, and that would hopefully be transforming to them? And as brief as you can, because I know there's a lot on your mind, and we could be here for a whole hour, 2 hours talking to you, but I just don't have the time to do that. So do it as quick as you possibly can. What would you say to them?
take responsibility.
Oh, oh, wow.
Take
Wow.
responsibility. That's what I
Oh,
would say, because
oh,
that's when everything changes. Nobody ain't gonna come to save us. Nobody's gonna come to carry us.
mm,
Gonna take some responsibility and make a choice, right?
wow.
It's
I
as
like that.
simple as that.
I
See,
like.
change is hard. Change
Mm,
is hard. right? The life we want is hard to achieve, but so is depression, so is loneliness, so is anger, so is anxiety, so is uncertainty. All of that is hard too. So which hard are you going to choose? Choose
Mm,
one, right? You can choose anxiety, you can choose depression. I chose depression and anxiety for 40 years.
mm,
Easy to choose. It's hard. It was a hard life. So was change. But it's the moment of taking responsibility. Okay, this happened to me when I was 6 months old. This happened to me when I was 11. This happened to me when I was whatever. But I'm 40 now.
mm.
So why am I still paying for something that I was 6 months old? Why am I still paying for the pain that I endured at 11? Why am I still paying for walking into my ex-wife and seeing this scene? Why am I still paying for it? What am I getting out of this? And so the invitation that I'm sharing here with you humbly, but I also share with my own clients, take responsibility, right? It's the moment of saying enough. I'm done. I'm done with this. What is it that I really want? What is really that you want?
Mm.
Right?
I,
Make the choice. It's
I
there,
I hear you.
right?
I hear you.
And decide which hard you want to do.
Okay.
You want to do the hard of change, the hard of, I don't know, go in a journey and find yourself and heal, and you're out a journey and go after what really matters to you, not society, not your neighbor, not your mama or daddy or your wife or spouse or whoever, but you take the courage of stepping up into your own authenticity, as we all were when we were little. We were all authentic when we were all little. We're all jumping the ponds with no care in the world, but all of a sudden we stop,
I got
right?
you. Okay.
So taking responsibility and making the choice.
I
Which
got you.
hard will
Okay.
I take, right?
Rodolfo, I hear you. Um, Listeners, don't go in a place. Hang around. I've got a couple more questions that I like to ask Rodolfo. But first of all, I want to ask Rodolfo is if there are individuals, listeners of this podcast who would like to know more about you, and there is so much about you, or if you have a book or website that they can contact you, how will they go about doing that?
Thank you. Well, they can find me on Instagram, Rodolfo De Angeli. They can find me on Facebook, the real Rodolfo De Angeli. And they can go on a site that I just put together, and it's called findingclarityinmidlife.com. One of the first steps is being clear, right? It's finding clarity. Okay, what is it that I really want to do here? And so finding clarity in midlife.com, there's a free giveaway that I shared there, and there are 10 mistakes to avoid when feeling lost in midlife. And
Okay.
so they can go and get it from there. And yeah, please reach out on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever. I got a Facebook group, Life Artist Mastery. So you can find that, on Facebook as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that's about that. Obviously,
Okay.
websites, rodolfodeangeli.com. If they Google me, Rodolfo De Angeli, they will find the different places where they can connect with me, find some stuff about me, or
Okay.
resources as well, for
All
sure.
right. All right. Very, very good. Let me ask you this last question. I guess this could be my last question because throughout your life, you have uh, encountered and seem to overcome significant challenges. We've talked about it, and you shared a lot of it already. So tell us what strategies, mindsets, do you find most effective, in helping others navigate their own difficult times? what have you used to help other people get through their situations?
Right. Great question. First of all, I always ask to take responsibility. That's where I'm starting. Okay.
Okay.
Great. I heard it. Beautiful. Let's now take responsibility. And now it's about you taking that choice. But also asking a very powerful question. Why is this perfect for me right now? Why is the situation you're in perfect for you? Right.
Hmm.
It's understanding, okay, it's not just happening for me, but it's also happening because of me. And so why is this good?
Mhm.
Right. So
Okay.
when my wife was diagnosed with cancer only 6 years ago, I was like, why is this perfect for me? And what is the outcome I want right now? Even though I don't know what to do, right? When we are starting something new, we don't know what it is. But the moment of taking responsibility, okay, I'm responsible for my life now. I'm going to take my life back into my hands. Great. Step one. Number two, what is it that I want out of this? How do I really want to feel, and what does really matter to me? Write it down. Okay, one and one. This is for me, this is for that. And now, great, what step do I need to take today?
Mhm.
What can I do right now to get me closer, to get this machine moving? Right. So I'm less about, okay, go here, go there, but more about, okay, let's sit down. Now it's you and you, nobody else. God, creator, whatever you believe in, sit there at that table with that. And now be honest, because you can't BS around with this, right? And now it is responsibility. Why is it perfect? And what do I want? What
I hear
matters?
you. I hear you. Well said. Well said. This is something that I want to ask you, and if you will be very brief with this, because I'm gonna have to go. Uh, but you know, in your journey from trauma to healing, and obviously that's what has happened with you. Uh, what was the pivotal moment that set you on the path of becoming? And you talk about a life artist. What is what do you mean by that? And what was the pivotal moment that got you there?
Oh, that's a great question. Gosh. I'm keeping this super brief. A live artist to me is the person who grabs all of the things that life has given, the good and the challenges. And now imagine that those things are colors, right? It's like the artist using the palette of the colors on his canvas, and he's bringing shadows and lights in balance, and hence why the masterpiece comes together, hence why people travel the world to go and see someone's masterpiece inside some museum or so, or an art gallery, right? the art the life artist does the same, does not neglect anything, does not throw anything away, but uses every single bit the life has given and turns it into a color, and now balances this canvas with shadows and lights, where one day we all going to be at the same place horizontally, waiting for the moment of getting out of here and getting back home, if you wish. And that's the moment we're going to look back at this canvas that will represent our life.
Mm,
And we hopefully want to look at that and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always smooth, but wow,
mm.
what a picture.
Wow.
That's to me the life artist.
Rodolfo, I tell you, this has been an exciting interview. You've had so much to share. I wish we could have an hour, 2 hour with you. You're just amazing. Uh, and I just want to let you know how much I enjoyed it talking with you, our conversation. And thank you again for agreeing to be on this podcast. And there you have it. Uh, Rodolfo De Angeli, whose life story encourages listeners to reflect act, and transform their lives. What a story. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.